even after he gave them the rather terrible #BlackAF, Netflix has decided to stick with Kenya Barris and give him his first feature-length directing debut. And Kenya managed to get Jonah Hill and Eddie Murphy. Should you watch it? I'm John Stark from ActionMovieGuy.com, and this is my review of You People. You People. I think you're supposed to say it like menacingly. It's I'm a blind film critic, and it's on Netflix with audio description. So if you were looking for, for that in your life, if you're like me and you're like, oh, I have to see a movie with audio description, cool. And if you're not, well, then we're still going to talk about the movie. So, some other critics have compared this to Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? Guess Who's Talking to Dinner? That would be a way more interesting movie. I want to see that movie. Guess Who's Talking to Dinner? If they ever remake it, they need to do that one. Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? It's a little bit more complex than that. I can see why you would think that, but it kind of goes both ways. I think of the one that unabashedly was the remake of Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, which was Bernie Mac and Ashton Kutcher in Guess Who, which basically already, I hate to say that Kenya Barris is walking a path that's already been walked before, but bro, you're walking a path that's already been walked before. So yeah, it does a little bit of that, but what Kenya brings into this one is he flips it on the other side, so you get it both ways. So the main couple here is played by Jonah Hill and Lauren London. Usually we only get the one side where daughter brings boyfriend home. Daddy no like. Daddy does not like new boyfriend. No matter what twist you want to put on it, or girlfriend, I'm sure there's going to be, or has been, or boyfriend, or whatever. I'm sure there's going to be an LGBT twist on this, if there hasn't been already, if I can't just think of it. It's just, that's the format. And, this time, Lauren London has to go mix with Jonah Hill's family, who are bizarre, to say the least. Julia Louis-Dreyfus plays his mom, who I don't really even know what to describe. A bit much, I guess. I feel like that was like on the roll sheet they sent out to Julia Louis-Dreyfus of like the character description. It just says a bit much. It's just like, oh, I like that. I'm gonna go do that role. There's really nothing. That's all you really need to say about her role. And David Duchovny plays his father, who he's kind of wasted in this film, if I'm being honest. If you're a David Duchovny fan, you're going to be deeply disappointed by his amount of screen time. Same thing with Nia Long, who plays, on the other side, Eddie Murphy's wife and Lauren London's mother. She's also kind of wasted. This film focuses mainly on like the two parents, Eddie Murphy and Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and then the other parents are just like, they float in when, like, every once in a while, but it's almost like their opinion doesn't really matter. They don't really have the focus or the balance in this film that some of the other past versions have had, giving credence to maybe like the whole family. She also has a brother. Lauren London also has a brother, Omar, who is like barely in the film. And then I think at some point they made a reference to Jonah Hill having a sister, and I had no idea. I still am not even really sure. I think it was like a passing reference to him having a sister in the film, to Ezra. His character's name is Ezra, by the way, and Lauren London is Amira. And I what? I had no idea. I don't know where the sister came from. Interestingly, getting more screen time than I would say either one of the siblings, or David Duchovny or Nia Long, is Jonah Hill's best friend Mo, played by Sam J, who is hilarious. I didn't really know. I didn't realize I had seen so many things with Sam J in it. It was one of those things that made me look up and make sure that I knew who was playing Mo. And I was like, oh, this person's funny. And I was like, oh my God, this person's been in so many things. Oh, this is Pause with Sam J? I didn't ever watch Pause with Sam J. But I've seen other things like Bust Down, which I actually thought was really good last time around. So, yeah, Sam J's funny. So, and she's funny in this. So it's a fun role for her. And she's got a really great exchange with Eddie Murphy, which is like my favorite moment in the movie. And I'm sure for her it was like, I get to do this with Eddie Murphy, cool. But yeah, so Sam J is kind of, I guess, bigger than Nia Long and David Duchovny in this film. That's kind of your main cast. And that's it. That kind of rounds it out for you. And the film does exactly what you would expect. Ezra's Jewish and Amira's black, and their cultures clash, but they're in love, but their cultures clash. Their parents either don't get them or don't like them. Eddie Murphy is like aggressively like he's always like scowling at Jonah Hill. Even in the audio description, he never seems happy that he's in the presence of Jonah Hill. That for some reason, they have done this to him. And they didn't just make him black, by the way. They made him Muslim too. So it's also the difference of religion. So it's not even like the representation of white and black. Since they, in this film, are considering the Jewish population to be white, which is, great to have that angle, but frequently that population is not considered to be white, which is the whole problem leading up to the Holocaust, is because they were seen as not being that. So it's interesting to see that exchange, and that well, you're whiter than we are, and there's a lot of really pointed conversations that you would expect from a Kenya Barris project about race and where it lines up and where people stand and history and how we got to where we are and the struggle that still exists. And it's full of that. And unlike his last project, #BlackAF, which again was terrible, this one follows a little bit more under the lines of the great writing that he managed to do for Blackish, which is the whole reason anybody knows who Kenya Barris is. The rest of his projects are either Blackish spin-offs, which are good, like Mixed-ish and Grownish, or the fact that he wrote Girls Trip, which I really liked. He apparently also wrote The Witches, so I feel like that negates the fact that he wrote Girls Trip, because The Witches reboot with Octavia Spencer was awful. But then again, I don't know what... I think that's directed by Robert Zemeckis. I don't know what's been happening to the latter part of his career. So is he trying to pay off debts? Like, it's just... I don't understand. Between that and Pinocchio, I'm deeply concerned for Robert Zemeckis. But this is a nice feature debut for Kenya. I enjoyed this. I enjoy Kenya's conversations. When Kenya's on point, he's on point. When he's not on point, he doesn't have the skill level to be able to pull himself in and fix his own stuff. It's like nobody checks him. There's nobody who says, Kenya, this isn't very good. They just go, oh my God, Kenya Barris. So there's no system of checks and balances. If he's not on his game, then he's not on his game, and you just get a kind of a crappy product. But here, I think he's on his game. and I think he did a decent job directing this. It's it's maybe perhaps a little formulaic, like, and predictable, but what he brings to it are conversations and the stuff that you can have coming out of the film and out of these characters. And what he got were actors. He pulled in a cast of some truly talented people. It's been a hot minute since we've seen Eddie Murphy in a project, especially a project that's actually like worthy of his comedic talents. And while he's playing a grown-up here and he doesn't get to do like silly faces or his rapid fire comedy, he has to be the mature one. He does a really good job at it. I mean, he does a really good job at being the condescending father figure. And Jonah Hill is just a nervous ball of emotion. There's so many times in this film where he says stuff that's a lie because he doesn't know what else to say, that I kept thinking, he's gonna get caught, he's gonna get caught, he's gonna get caught, he does not get caught nearly as many times as I thought he would, when he just starts rambling and going off on a tangent and just starting to make claims about things. There is one that Eddie Murphy calls him on that's hilarious because it turns out that Jonah Hill was right about that one. But the rest of them are just kind of like, he's making it up. He plays a guy that's a podcaster, and he does a podcast with Sam J's Mo. That's how they know each other, and they do a podcast about the culture. So they're talking back and forth about a lot of just like general pop culture stuff. But Eddie Murphy of course says that he does a podcast about Black culture, which is fair. I mean, a lot of this stuff when you're talking about a lot of the stuff that he says that he talks about definitely overlaps there. We never get to listen to a full-length podcast of anything. They just little ideas. So I assume that it's not just all that in real life, that's not actually what he does. But which is why he keeps saying the culture, because he's trying to say, I broadly talk about everything instead of I talk about this narrow thing. But Julia Louis-Dreyfus is the character that for me was a little bit too distracting, because she's so over the top as a character. I'm just like, do people do that? That was my concern. I was like, are there people? I want to know if Kenya Barris has actually met somebody like that, or if that's what he believes white people are like, because it was so much. I mean, I think of all my interactions with any of my Black friends, and I can't think I've ever had some of the interactions that Julia Louis-Dreyfus has had with. It's like she's seeing an alien for the first time, and she doesn't know how to react. It's like she's never been around a Black person before. It's so bizarre. She's so, she would consider herself so, I guess we'll use the word woke here, that she doesn't want to get it wrong. So she's trying to overly compensate, and she says some of the dumbest shit. And I'm just, I just have no idea. Even if you thought I've said dumb shit before, multiply that by like 1 billion, and then you'll come out with Julia Louis-Dreyfus' character. It's very, very bizarre. I don't think people like her exist. I do think people like Eddie Murphy's character exists, and definitely Nia Long, and actually David Duchovny, because they don't push him they don't give him much to do. He only says like 3 things in the film. He only pops up like a couple of times, so his character is not very deep. All I learned was that David Duchovny is not a great singer, unless somebody watches that John Legend moment and thinks to themselves, I'd love to buy me a David Duchovny album. love to get up in that. I was like, oh my god. Well, David Duchovny, this is about he's never been in a musical before. Um, yeah, so it could have been intentionally singing bad. I don't know, but it didn't feel like it. It just felt like that's his voice. That is, felt like he was trying to sing. Um, but yeah, I was entertained. It's an entertaining movie. It wraps up my. I have problems with Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character being like a bit much, to the point where I just think she has no base in reality. Whereas I think every other character is well grounded, and the conversations that they have are important. A lot of times, like they have, and sometimes the things that they say. I love Lauren London in this. I'm so glad that she's getting such a prominent role, because she's somebody who I feel like she's been around, but she doesn't quite get the kind of love. It's sort of like Zoe Saldana like stole her career, and then everybody forgot Lauren London existed. They came up around about the same time, because like Lauren London was back in she was in like ATL back in the day, and Zoe Saldana was, she was coming up out of the early 2000s with films like Guess Who, and she had been in Center Stage. So they're kind of about the same age, and then Zoe Saldana all of a sudden gets huge franchises, attached to her name, and now everybody knows who she is. And Lauren London was waiting for something like this. So Hollywood, please cast Lauren London a lot more, because she's quite perfect. And also, I would love to see more from Nia Long, and I just don't get enough Nia Long in my life. She's been around forever too, and I was actually really looking forward to seeing Nia Long in this film, and then she's so sidelined. It's very upsetting. So that's it. The film comes to kind of a conclusion at the end that is just like, well, we need to wrap the movie up. It follows the same sort of, I don't want to spoil the ending. I'm not gonna, I won't. I mean, this is not really an ending you can spoil. This is kind of an ending that you can kind of like guess yourself of how, like, where we're going to go with this and what's going to happen, and we're going to go here, and then we're going to go here, and then we're going to turn around and come back here. It's just, that's where it's going to follow the plot exactly how you think it's going to be. He didn't rewrite this genre to be able to do his film. So, but it does kind of spend a lot of time on the awkwardness of the situation, and then when it's trying to resolve that at the end for its happy ever after, it kind of just gives up. It kind of just, the only way it can get there is by having Eddie Murphy make a complete change of his character, just seemingly with no resistance. He doesn't even get that scene that we get in movies like this, where like the father realizes he's messed up his daughter's life because like he accidentally sees her like crying herself to sleep or something like that. He just kind of turns over a new leaf. He just like, well, I guess I'll change my ways. But it just didn't feel like there was no real catalyst for it. It's just, he was just kind of having this conversation. He was like, I guess I am an asshole. It's like, really? It was that easy? It's that easy for somebody to just kind of like call you out on you on it, and you're just like, yep, you're right. That was me. My bad. Let's resolve this so we can get the movie over. And bring it on home. So, but it's, I think people will like this. I think if you like these actors, you'll like this film. I think that's what it comes down to. I've seen some crappy Eddie Murphy movies before. I've seen some crappy Jonah Hill movies before. It's Julia Louis-Dreyfus was in Downhill. So, it is possible to have that, but they're all doing good work here, and Kenya does a competent job of directing them. And I think when I come back around to the end of the year, I'll remember enough of the jokes and enough of the laughter and the smiling that even though it's somewhat formulaic, and even though I have no idea what's going on with Julia Louis-Dreyfus in this movie, it's something that I will recommend to other people and enjoy. So the audio description here is exactly what you would need it to be from this kind of a movie. There was one scene that it was lost on me. I did not understand it, and I didn't get it in the audio description necessarily. But then they bring it up later on, and I got it. And I was like, oh, that's what that was. But at first, there's a scene where, through part of Eddie Murphy's torturing of Jonah Hill, he takes him to a certain place while Jonah Hill is wearing a particular piece of clothing. And there's a lot of attention drawn to that piece of clothing. And I couldn't figure out why. Later on, they openly discuss it. They openly say what it is. But in the moment, I didn't understand what was going on about the... Jonah Hill cracked a joke about it, and I could see sort of what they were trying to do, but I kind of needed a little bit more in the audio description territory for that joke to land at the time, maybe perhaps that they wanted it to land, instead of it being this thing that I find out about like later on when I'm like, oh yeah, now I get it, you know? Otherwise, I didn't really notice any other problems with the film. So that's good for the audio description. Anyway, so it's time for me to wrap up this review. I'm gonna give you people a B+. Yeah, I approached Kenya Barris things with trepidation. I do. So the fact that I'm giving it a B+, I didn't see this right away when it dropped. I waited. I saw how people were reacting, and it's been both sides. I've seen some people who absolutely don't like this movie and absolutely love this movie. So I don't know where you'll be on this. All I can say is that I don't personally hate formulas, as long as you make sure that you're following the formula and that the formula works. Sometimes formulas work and create things for a reason. That's why they're there. And this very much does try to stick to a formula. It brings a little bit of Kenya's flavor to it, but he makes mostly the right calls. So, and it's not too long. It probably could have been shorter, if we're being honest. It's closer to 2 hours than it is 90 minutes, and this feels like a film. But I don't know what he probably would have cut more from the ending, because he seems to want to have a lot of conversations, and the ending is already abrupt as it is. So, I don't know what he would have cut from. So, I'd be scared to tell him to turn down the movie, because I don't know what he would take out. I think he would take out the wrong stuff and make the movie worse. So, this is probably the best cut of the film we would get from Kenya Barris. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for subscribing. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. So we can keep talking about movies that have audio description and are accessible to the blind and visually impaired community, like me. I also have a website, macthemovieguy.com. You can go to the audio description project, adp.acb.org. It'll let you know what has audio description and where you can watch it. And you can go to the adna.org. That's the adna.org. And it'll let you know who is narrating your favorite films and television series. That's it for me today. I will review something else for you guys and catch you on the other side.